And welcome to the Business Spotlight. My name is Pat Dewar, and today I've got a fantastic guest who I've known for a number of years. He is the neuro programmer. Notice there was no linguistics in there. And part of the reason for that is that Dr. Ed Lewellen has transformed so many minds in such a short time in the way that he works with people that it's an honor to have him on my show. I know that he's spoken all over the country. He's a published author. He has his doctorate. The man's done a tremendous number of things for business owners and professionals all over the country. I'm so honored to have you on the show again, Dr. Ed.
Oh, Pat, I'm happy to be here talking with you again, and the success that you've had yourself as well as with other people.
Thank you. I want to get into your story as far as how do you create what you're doing right now?
So it's very unique, and that's being unique can be good, it can be bad, because it can be good in that it is totally different. It is something that people sometimes can't totally grasp. And so unlike so many coaches and trainers and so forth, I don't go in and teach someone a skill. I actually help rewire the brain so that it functions in a way that they want it to.
Right.
Now that may sound a little bit odd, but we do it all the time. And the thing that most people don't understand is we have more, our brain has more flexibility and adaptability than what we're taught.
Right. But the thing is that the things that you're teaching and working with executives and business owners around the country, the stuff that you're doing is so quick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you go in and you work with an owner, an executive, or some of their management, it's amazing how fast, I look at your website, I look at your book, and I see these case studies of where you shifted somebody that everyone else thought was an introvert into someone that was very successful in what they were doing, someone that everybody else thought was lazy, into someone that was actually got an advancement within 6 months of working with you.
Right.
I've seen you transform businesses in record time because you were able to work with the leadership and then some of the other staff. So how'd you create that?
Some people say it's a gift from God. I've taken a lot of different training, worked with a lot of great people in the world, top people in the world, but what I do is really my own. The process that I use is, again, just very unique and able to take and rewire. In fact, one of the words I like to use when I'm talking with people in the medical community is neuropathological remodeling.
Right. That's kind of where I was going initially. But what does neuropathological remodeling mean for the client that would work with you?
So let's say we have a business owner, and they're very driven. They have all the entrepreneurial spirit. They're doing all the things that the normal entrepreneur will do, and those can be good. But again, like most things, it's a double-edged sword. So let's say they've gotten the company to a certain point, and now they need to be different, rather than being that person that's always driving, being very forceful. They have to be the kind of person that interacts well with their people.
Right.
And in such a way that they are able to produce results through people versus just themselves.
So you're talking about the difference in a lot of cases from manager to leader, where they're trying to take a company to the next level and beyond. There is a different mindset when you go from 100,000 a year as far as just the beginning, all the way up to $1 million to maybe even 10 million.
Right.
But then when you get above 10 million, it takes a different kind of leader.
It does. And that's, if you look at LinkedIn, you look at so many different websites and magazines that talk about leadership, they're filled with all this different information about how to be a servant leader, how to be, this type of leader, that type of leader. The problem is that so much of that is not trainable. I mean, you can tell someone, hey, you need to be like this, but it's a whole different story to actually, boom, changing the mind, the thought process, the belief system, so they actually become that versus a learned behavior.
Well, the thing that I've run into is trying to create lasting change. You have to train the unconscious level, right, rather than the conscious. And the challenge with that is that it takes so long. I mean, they talk about training that unconscious mind as something that could take 90 days or more, and yet it sounds like you're able to reach into that area in a person's life and shift those things very, very quickly. So in just one of the things that I'd want you to do is tell people real quick how to get a hold of you and maybe get a copy of your book. And then after the break, we'll go back with some other stuff.
Okay. Website is trans-think.com.
Yeah, put it on the screen. Go ahead.
And then 972-900-9207. That's a direct call to me.
Right.
And people can get in contact with me. Now, I want people to know that right now I'm only looking for probably 3, maybe 4 companies to work for.
Oh, yeah. I imagine you couldn't even handle it more than that. I mean, just because of what you do and how you create change. This is the Business Spotlight. I'm Pat Dewar. We're talking with Dr. Ed Lewellen. He is someone that has the ability to really shift a person to give them the tools to create greater success in their life. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Business Spotlight. I'm Pat Dewar. My guest today is Dr. Ed Lewellen. Dr. Lewellen is, and I really have to call you Dr. Ed because I've known you so many years. The thing that I'm so excited about with you being on the show is that in this segment, I want to talk about what you're doing to create the success that you're having. In other words, what are you doing for your clients directly? I'm hearing so many great stories. Help us understand. What are you doing?
Sure. So let me focus on one company in particular that I've been working with this year. Started actually right in January. So the owner of the company contacted me. He had seen me speak at an event and said, "Let's talk. What can you do for me?" So we got together. Of course, he decided to bring me on, and so for the first 30 days. I worked exclusively with him. And what we did is we created a change in mindset. Now, this is a company that they do mortgages, but he was wanting to expand the company to become a builder. And beyond that, not only building homes, building apartments. And so he's got a big vision of where he wants his company to go. So at the beginning, he had some limitations that were keeping him from being able to, really do everything that he would like to do. His vision was to build 2 houses this year. And so after working with him, it's always so amazing for me to see people because he tells me, Ed, he says, everything is changing. He'd been through divorce, teenage kids, the usual problems when all that happens. He says, I'm acting differently towards my kids, and so they're responding differently to me.
Amazing how that works.
Yeah, he says, it's great. And, and I could tell some of the stories that he shared, but, anyway. So his relationship there with his kids changed. He told me his relationship with his people that work for him had changed to the point where he was much more effective as a leader, and they were being more productive. So we get through the 30 days, and he decides to retain me for the entirety of this year.
Right.
And so the next step was he brought me in to work with some of his salespeople. So I worked with a couple of his salespeople, and boom, they took off like a rocket. To the point where he started being able to step away from the mortgage side of the business. Now, one of his key people was the next person I worked with, and she had a lot of concerns. He had wanted her to get her mortgage broker's license. She'd been scared, hesitant, fearful, because she loved him and the company so much. She didn't want to do something that would cost him money and then end up failing.
Oh, so she was the fear of failure.
And so that's the reason why she didn't want to take this test. So I worked with her, and it was amazing because before working with her, when you go into the office, you'd see her walking around kind of with a shoulders rolled forward, head down a little bit, very servant-like attitude. She could not say no to anybody, who asked her to do something. So she was constantly stressed because she'd always say yes.
Right. She'd always keep getting into overwhelm.
Absolutely. When I saw her a couple of weeks after working with her, it was amazing. Her shoulders were back, her head was up. She was able to tell people, you know what, I don't have any capacity for that.
Right.
So her stress level was down, and again, she told me stories about even family, how this had affected that. So here, this key person had an amazing change and was flipped to where she had this confidence, and she's now taken that test and passed it.
Well, I'm curious, how has that experience with you, what results have they seen this year?
So instead of, again, his plan was to build 2 houses. He has built, I believe, close to 20.
20. 10 times what they thought.
And his plan is by the end of the year that he'll build 30.
Wow. And how has it affected the salespeople?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's the growth is, as you can see from the numbers, exponential.
Yeah. I mean, well, but they do several things. They are building homes, they're doing mortgages, all of those different. And I would imagine that there's a great deal of difference in who does what there.
Sure.
And I'm just curious, do you have any kind of ideas? Is it 100% that they've done, or is it the tenfold that the first number you threw out was 2 to 20?
You mean as far as how much the salespeople were making?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have an exact number on that, but it's out of this world.
They keep raving about you.
Well, yeah, I mean because of me working with them and the boss, they've experienced a huge increase in income.
Wow, that is really amazing. Folks, it's hard to try to tell somebody what Ed's able to do because it seems a little bit far-fetched that he can go in and work with somebody for 30 days and their vision shifts. He can work with an organization for 6 to 8 months, and all of a sudden they're creating massive growth because of the adjustments. And I know what it really is about is that when we create lasting change at this level, the unconscious level, we create amazing results. And Dr. Ed's been able to do that over and over again for his clientele. I really encourage you to connect with him. This is the Business Spotlight, and I'm Pat Dewar, my guest, Dr. Ed Lewellen. We'll be right back. And welcome to the Business Spotlight. I'm Pat Dewar. I have Dr. Ed Lewellen, a business coach that works with executive coaches and businesses around the country. He has spoken all over the country, created massive results for his clientele. And this segment, I really want to go deep into who is the ideal client for you? Who are you specifically suited to work with, and really why? What kind of results do you think they would get?
The type of people, the type of culture that I'm looking to work with are ones that are impatient. So they're tired of, for instance, I've been around a few years.
You've been doing this for like 30 years, you said.
Yeah.
Your bio says.
And so, what I see people do so much of the time is when their organization is not growing like they want it to, what do? Well, they turn to more training, more sales training, some different types of training that are all skills level stuff. So what I'm looking for are companies who want to change the way people think. Mm-hmm. Something that very few other people can do. And I'm going to be so verbose to say that there's probably only 10 people in the world that can do what I do.
Right, at the speed
that I know
and
of.
efficient. Right.
And I'll even qualify it with that I know of. So that needs to be a business owner who's impatient. They want growth. They're tired of doing the same old stuff. They're tired of same old sales training, same old this training, then that training. That they really want to change the way a person thinks, including themselves.
Right.
So that's another requisite would be they would have to participate.
Yeah, that's the key, because management breeds disciples after itself. Right. If leadership and ownership doesn't buy in, quite honestly, it never gets very far in the organization. Right. Because my term for it is everybody's BS-o-meter goes off. They're bull stuff. I didn't use the other word. Okay, so you're working with these folks that are impatient. They're frustrated. They want faster growth. They know that they need something to create change. And what happens when they call you? What are you gonna do with them to be able to see if they're even a good fit for you?
Well, again, those are going to be some things we're going to qualify as just how invested is the top leadership to make this happen, and if they're going to participate in it and be a part of it, then we outline. Here's where you are today. Here's where you want to be tomorrow, and how I'm going to get them there. Right.
And then is that something that is like people typically bring you on for a retainer for season to infect? I don't want to say infect. That's not the right word. Effect the people that are in the organization.
Yeah. So again, let me go back to that company I've been talking about previously. So they brought on a new office manager. So within the first 2 weeks, the owner of the company brought me in to work with her. Even though she had been extremely successful in another company, she still had some fears, doubts, worries, limiting beliefs about her ability to lead in this new company. So after working with her, boom, she's, I've had met with her twice. The second time, she goes, you know what? She says, I am doing great. She said, all that head trash that I had previously that I was dragging around is gone. And so I am able to lead so much more effectively than I had at the old company, even though she'd been there for a long time.
Interesting. So the leaders that you work with are able to become better leaders faster. One of the things that I see in working with leaders around the country is that so often they get frustrated with all their to-dos, right, that they lose the emotional intelligence to be kind or to be a leader, a real leader, inspirational, guiding type person. And you're able to shift people to where they can be what they really want to be faster?
Well, just imagine if a person, whether it's leadership, sales, whatever position they have in the company, just imagine what it would be like if they didn't have all the head trash of previous experiences. Maybe they could bring with them all the learning they had, what they learned from those experiences, but not the emotional baggage, all the stuff that keeps them stuck in the past, that makes them go, second guess themselves. Like that's what was causing this lady a problem was she
Fear
was
of failure.
Well, and she was second guessing herself. Was she going to make the right decision? And so imagine being rid of all that stuff so you're free to move forward with all the power, clarity, focus, and certainty of a positive future versus thinking about how the past has affected you.
Huh. And how long have you been doing this for different clients and stuff? I mean, I've known you for a number of years, and I know you've been doing it for longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, originally I started doing it when I was a pastor 30 years ago.
Wow. So long time.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that this stuff isn't like new, never heard of before. These the tools that you're using are, they're ancient. I mean, they're the things that have created massive change. So, folks, I really encourage you to connect with Dr. Ed Lewellen at his trans-think.com. Get a hold of his book. The name of the book real quick?
90-Second Mind Manager.
90-Second Mind Manager.
Yep.
So it has to do with what's going into here.
Yep.
And if you need to create change, then you should connect to Ed, like especially right away, because I know he doesn't have a lot of bandwidth, that he's in demand. And this is Pat Dewar. The Business Spotlight is all about bringing you world leaders into your place and to help you create a better vision, purpose, passion, and really destiny that you want. We'll be right back. And welcome to the Business Spotlight. I'm Pat Dewar. My guest today is Dr. Ed Lewellen. And Dr. Ed is sharing a lot of the ways that he's created massive results in amazingly short time in working with different executives and business owners around the country. And so this time I really want to get into the how do you want people, if they know that they're that person that's impatient, that's in pain and frustration in trying to be the leader they're supposed to be, but they're so tightly wound up with all the things that they have to juggle in a day. They're an owner of a business typically. Those people, how do you want them to connect to you?
So they can give me a call, of course. That number is 972-900-9207. They can email me. It's ed@trans-think.com. So those are the two best ways to get in touch with me. And I'd like for them to really have thought through how they want to be different when they connect with me. That, here they are today, like you said, maybe they're stuck, wound tight, feel like there really is no answer. So if there was an answer, if there was a magic genie that could appear and snap their finger and make it happen, what would it be like?
Right. I mean, what are some of the frustrations that you typically find that people are looking for your solution? Is it, you said, impatient, but I'm curious, what are some of the literal pains that people are experiencing in their business that would draw you to the forefront of their mind?
So they have salespeople who are afraid to network,
right?
Afraid to
Sell.
cold call. I do a presentation called The Neuroscience of Sales, and I focus on what I've found to be, and again, this is through experience over the last 30 years. The two places where salespeople usually fall short: prospecting and closing.
Right.
So whether
opening doors and closing doors.
Absolutely. So at the front end, they may be shifting papers from one side of the desk to the other. They're on the internet, supposobly, prospecting.
Doing research.
Yeah, all that stuff. what would it be like? Uh, in fact, I just worked with a person yesterday. I just happened to think of this. So she was having that problem. And when we got done, I asked her, I said, so what are you thinking now? She says, I've got to get on the phone. I said, are you telling me that I need to be quiet so you can get going? She says, I am. She says, all these people I've been wanting to call, I'm going to call them today.
Nice.
So she was like, get off the phone. I've got some work to do. So I'm anxious to hear from her in the next couple of days, how all that turned out.
Huh. And is the transformation lasting? Do the people really, does it take root? And I mean,
well, if you think about it, Pat, so usually in our life, our mind changes quickly with something either very dramatic or traumatic.
Right.
So something comes along, boom, and you go, holy crap, I've got to change.
Right.
Maybe you get a diagnosis of cancer or lung disease or whatever it is, because of smoking or whatever the
right.
is.
And for the business owner, that tends to be the IRS shows up, or somebody you can't expand your financial situation because you're kind of maxed out on certain other areas.
Yep. And so all of a sudden this dramatic or traumatic thing happens, and so the mindset changes. Well, that's what I'm doing, is literally changing that so it is a permanent change, so that it's rewired. So, let's say, you've got two things connected together that you don't want to be connected, connect it to something that you want.
Right. And so all of a sudden the results will change. Now, they can get a copy of your book on your website, correct?
They can get it through Amazon, Smashwords, Sony, almost any online bookstore.
Tell me, what are 2 or 3 things that they would get from the book very quickly?
So it's called the 90-Second Mind Manager, and where that comes from is there's a neurophysicist who was having a stroke, and while she was being studied on her recovery, they found out that you have up to 90 seconds between the time you feel an emotion and it becomes a neural pathway.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this book, I teach people how to manage that up to 90 seconds so that they can live a much better life.
Wow. I'm really grateful that you were able to come on the show today. And I know that, I've worked with you in throughout the last several years in different ways at different times. And you've even worked with my kids, my wife, and you created massive success, massive shifts in the way that we think and do. And folks, I just encourage you to, if you're dealing with something that's fairly repetitive that keeps holding you back, if you're a business owner and you keep kind of losing your cool with your own team and you're wanting to be a better leader, if you're an executive that is at that level where they know that they need a mind shift, then I would talk to Dr. Ed Lewellen as fast as you can. Go to his website, call him, get his book, because these are the keys to creating massive shift and change right now. This is the Business Spotlight. I'm so grateful to be able to bring you the keys to shifting the way that we think and the way that we work with others. In every show, you're going to be getting more and more content on how to begin to create the success that you're really wanting. You can always, you want to connect to Ed, Dr. Ed at his trans-think.com and or call him. But I encourage you, if you're looking for change, to do that right away. This is Pat Dewar, Business Spotlight, and we'll see you next time.